Hi, in today's video tutorial, I'll show you the magic of vector graphics in Adobe Illustrator and how to draw a fat, stylish car wheel from scratch. Let's start by creating a new document. I usually work with Instagram post dimensions. In the base layer, I create a solid colored background. This helps with contrast while drawing. I lock that layer and create a new one for reference images. For the wheel shape, I'll use one of my own rendered references, but feel free to use any tire or rim reference you like. I lowered the opacity of both images so I can draw directly over them on a new layer. For the line drawing, I'm using one of my favorite brushes, a basic calligraphic pressure brush. I create a new brush, keep the default settings, and only adjust the size and pressure style. The variation value must match the brush size, so here I set it to 9 points. Now we can start drawing the outline of the wheel. I rotate the canvas to make it easier to draw large shapes. Don't worry if your lines look wobbly, you can smooth them easily using the smooth tool. I'll now speed up the drawing process. The goal here is to build the basic shape and add a sense of volume, the tire thickness and rim depth. Don't stress about being perfect. This isn't technical drawing. I duplicated the outer edge of the tire and used it to add depth to the wheel. This simple trick helps give the drawing a more dimensional look. It's also a good idea to make the outer lines of your drawing slightly thicker and to vary the brush width using pressure sensitivity. It adds a lot of dynamic energy to the line work. I'm using an old Wacom Intuos 5 touch tablet, and pressure sensitivity still works perfectly on it. For the inner rim, I use a clipping mask, that's Command 7 on Mac, and place it in the center of the wheel. I adjust the shape and trace the inner rim using my pressure brush. Feel free to switch brush thickness between 1 point and 0.5 point. This can create some interesting visual variety. Let's trace the center of the wheel. We will add depth and more details in the next steps. Don't hesitate to tweak the lines freely. I want the rim to sit deeper inside the tire, so I move the center slightly inward. If any lines overlap, I draw a thick line in the background color over the edge to mask it. Also, use background colored fills to keep the right layering. Tip number 1, flip the drawing occasionally to spot any imperfections you might have missed. Add more rim detail and depth for a more natural look. Tip number 2, details matter. I will create the center depth by duplicating the inner edges of the wheel and shifting them further inward. It's a good idea to change the stroke color at this stage for better visual clarity. Let's move on to the tire. I create a new layer and draw the tread details using any reference image I like. To keep things organized, I use a high contrast red color for this brush stroke. Once I'm happy with the drawing, I change all stroke colors to black and merge the layers. It usually looks better when the outer lines of the drawing are thicker. This effect works great for merch products, stickers, and other graphic outputs. In this example, I made the rear part of tire a bit too jagged, so it doesn't look very smooth. But that's okay. In some cases, it can actually give the illustration a more technical or rough look, depending on the style you're going for. The basic line drawing is finished. I copy the layer and move it to the bottom of the stack. Select the entire drawing, go to Object, Expand Appearance, and then use Pathfinder, Merge. Create a white rectangle, place it behind the artwork in the same layer, use Object, Arrange, Send to Back. Use the Magic Wand tool to select the background fill color in this layer and recolor it white. Select everything and merge it again with Pathfinder. Tip number 3. Always keep an original, non-expand appearance version of your drawing. Now use the Magic Wand tool to select just the black outlines and move them into a new top layer named Outlines. Lock this layer. The rest, which is now all white, becomes our colors layer, and that's what we'll start coloring. Inside the colors layer, I recolor everything white to a light pink. This makes shadows and highlights easier to see. I fill in the deep inner parts of the rim with black and lock them. Then I select all the remaining pink shapes, copy them, and paste them into a new layer named Shadows. I recolor the shadows black, set their blending mode to multiply, and lower opacity to 40%. Boom! Full shadowed wheel. Now, I use the eraser tool to remove shadow where it doesn't belong. This part is really fun. You'll see how the drawing suddenly gains depth. Tip number 4. Don't be afraid to experiment. You can always paint the shadows back in. I create a new layer under colors and add a ground shadow using the pencil tool. Same process. Draw the shape, color it black, use multiply blending. Next, I add reflections. I create a new layer above shadows and rename it to reflections. Instead of plain black, I use a high contrast color for better visibility. With the pencil tool, I draw white areas where I want light to hit the surface. Now I swap the white color for a white gradient. Then I lower the opacity slightly so the reflections don't feel too flat. I create another layer for thin reflection lines, just 0.5 points wide. Tip number 5. Use pen pressure for a natural, uneven look in your lines. At the end, I set the layer opacity to 30 to 50%. Now for my favorite part, coloring. I start by changing the light pink base, what I call the mask layer, into the real colors, the color layer. The group color areas together using Command G to keep things organized. For the inner lip of the rim, I use a simple gradient. You can also go for a chrome gradient, but I'll keep it subtle for now. In a new layer, I add small dents and irregularities on the tire. Same technique as the reflection lines, just more subtle. I create a new layer for decals. Place it above colors for now. Use the ellipse tool to draw a tire wall decal. And add text with any font or slogan you like. Be creative. Have fun with it. Convert the text to outlines, then create a circle underneath it. After that, distort the whole group to match the shape of the tire's sidewall. This will help the decal follow the natural curvature of the wheel and make it feel like it's really printed on the rubber surface. Personally, I usually redraw decals by hand for a more stylized result. I also add handwritten tire markings like FL for front left. Still in the decals layer, I paste my iconic garage logo in Japan style for the center cap. Use your own or any logo you want. Then I add a new layer above colors for bolt holes. They usually have different color than the wheel, so use pencil tool and fill it with gray. Now I add a new top layer called dents and use black lines to emphasize wear and tear on the wheel surface. I'm using the same technique as with the reflection lines, but this time the lines are solid black with no transparency. You can use a thinner line here around 0.5 point to keep the details subtle but effective. This step helps add realism and a bit of character to the illustration. The wheel looks used, not brand new. I also changed the lug nuts from a chrome-style gradient to a flat gray color. This makes them blend better with the overall worn look and avoids drawing too much attention to that part of the wheel. Next layer. rust. Using the pencil tool, I draw rusty brown areas and set them to multiply at 80% opacity. Tip number 6. Rust is not a crime. Try layering 2 rust passes for more realism. Back in the dents layer, I add more fine lines for damage and texture. Go easy. Too much black can make it feel weird. I usually follow the shadow direction or rusty areas to create contrast. Less is sometimes more. But hey, it's your artwork. Also, don't forget to erase parts of your decals layer to simulate holes or damage. We're almost done. Unlock all layers, including hidden objects. That's Option Command 2. Then use the Magic Wand tool to select Brush Path. Go to Object, Expand Appearance to outline all brush strokes. Now you can fine-tune anything you want. Clean up, add details, or recolor forgotten parts. Just remember to keep the unused layers locked. Finally, for fun, I add a squash piece of bubblegum. Same workflow, outline it, expand, color it. I used partial shadows to keep it dimensional and not too flat. Add a few details and that's it. If it doesn't fit your vibe, just hide the layer. To finish, unlock all drawing layers, select everything, and group it with Command+G. Now you have a fully merged illustration that you can resize however you like. Export it to printing format, for example, high-quality PDF, and send it to your local printing company for merch samples. Thanks for watching. Be creative. Be you. See you next time.